Okay, hi, I'm Eris. I'm an entrepreneur and a multidisciplinary artist. I'm sharing on the study of imagery and its symbolism because I have a passion for visual communication. Here are a couple ways to connect with me. An icon is a sign or a likeness that stands for an object by representing it either concretely or by analogy. I wanted to share with you about visual icons because they are a common part of our everyday lives. But let's look back for a minute. As many as 5,000 years ago, the first icons made of pictographs were produced in ancient China, Sumeria, and Egypt. Perhaps these cave paintings were like early tweets or wall posts, telling where to find the best hunting grounds or how to avoid imminent danger. Language is developed from these ideations, the first of which were logographic, or visual symbols representing words, such as the hieroglyphic language shown here. Although a purely logographic language is highly impractical, in 2001, translator and linguist Sonia Ellen Kisa developed Hoki-Pona, a 134-character, mostly visual language inspired by Taoist philosophy. Perhaps she had a little too much time on her hands. Eventually, our communication evolved into simple written language. Although some parts of the world seem to be a little behind the times, the Chinese developed an astounding 80,000 characters, of which they use about 3,000 today. I'm sticking with my 26 letters. So why are icons so important? Well, for one, they convey a lot of meaning in a small space. This is useful when people want to make an impression quickly and within limited space. This example is a rebus, which uses imagery and letters to communicate words. Shown here are several popular religious icons that carry symbolism for millions of people. Each was developed from ideations of language and meaning that were important to its believers at the time. Many times we can quickly and easily recognize most symbols. They either resemble what they represent, or they are so commonly used that they have permeated our daily lives. Once we learn one meaning of a symbol, it's often hard to equate it with something else. However, some symbols have been misconstrued over time. The Nazis used this symbol in the past, but the swastika was used by many cultures throughout the past 3,000 years to represent life, sun, strength, and good luck. Then the Christians borrowed the Latin cross from the pagans, and the Satanists adopted the inverted cross. Perhaps they didn't realize it's one of the highest symbols of honor in Catholic mythology. St. Peter felt unworthy to be crucified in the same way as Jesus Christ, so he was inverted. As a media designer, I must find ways to convey meaning in its least complicated visual form. A number of well-known common symbols were designed by artists like me that are now a part of everyday life. It's a designer's job to bridge boundaries and push past communication barriers. Most everyone can recognize the human form as seen here. And we can use it in many humorous ways. Subtlety is sometimes key to humor. Sometimes communicating the correct meaning is quite a challenge. The icon on the top is the international symbol for the hearing impaired. The one below is supposed to signify an exit. I think these are a bit vague. Take a moment to think about what might improve these icons. Sometimes we can understand the intended meaning, but it's not the correct context. Sometimes it's the right context, but we suffer from cultural differences. These are all real signs from around the world. When I design branding, I have to consider all the implications of shape, color, layout, and the context in which they are used. Looks like some people haven't been very thoughtful. And these are funny, so they get a lot of attention. But they're probably not conveying the message these organizations intended. So just for fun, let's do an experiment. Can you identify with these icons? Some are technology-based, and others are pop culture references. See what you can identify. We are inundated with symbolic imagery every day. It is often at the subconscious level that we interpret this communication. We rely on simplistic imagery to convey complex meaning in numerous ways. Think about the symbols you take for granted every day. So if you find you need a message, concept, or brand illustrated with thought-provoking quality and valuable context, be sure to hire a creative and experienced visual communicator like me to make you look good. Thank you.
Following Albert Einstein, I don't know. Jeez. Harris, very good, very good. All right, okay. Human-computer connection. Basically, my talk is about the world that we live in as far as dealing with technology. And right now we live in a much more technological age than any of our fathers or forefathers or anybody else that has preceded us. The way we deal with technology, yes? The way we deal with technology has changed vastly over the last few years. We get our hands on a tablet and we move things around. The things that we use the most are our hands, as in this depiction. This is where we have our greatest amount of sensation. Of course, we got a lot of sensation in our lips, but our hands are really the predominant thing that we use to get in touch and to manipulate and use technology. And so in the first day of typing class, somebody said to me, said to the teacher, why are the keys all positioned the way they are on a QWERTY keyboard? And somebody else said, well, according to Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing, the mechanical hammers were jamming, so they positioned them so that they wouldn't collide. And I thought, well, that's crazy. We don't use mechanical hammers anymore. We haven't had a mechanical keyboard for at least 30 years, so why are we doing this? Surely there's got to be something that's a little bit better, something that makes a little bit more sense than what we're using currently. And I found out that August Dvorak in the 1930s came out with a different configuration for the keyboard. Basically, he put all the vowels on the left hand and major consonants on the right hand on the home row, and that was an improvement. It made it a little bit more efficient, but it still wasn't exactly a leap. And so I looked, and I found that there are some really strange keyboards out there, some really interesting technology where they've sculpted the keys, they've curved them one-handed, split them in half. On the right-hand side, you see the key bowl. There's actually 2 bowls that you move in one of 8 positions and type. And then you got the data hands where you stick your fingers down in the holes and you move them back and forth and up and down. And it's a different way of being able to type. And wow, that's pretty cool. But really didn't have the leap for me. And one day I was holding a ball in the garage and I was kind of lamenting the fact that I'm not a great typer and would often strike at 2 keys at a time and said, well, wouldn't it be nice if you could type and you didn't have to move your hands? How would you do that? And I thought, well, you got 10 fingers, 2 opposable thumbs, there's 26 letters. So a single press for the first 10 letters, hold one thumb for the next 8, the other thumb for the last 8. 8 and 8 is 16, plus 10 is 26, and it worked out perfectly. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. Figuring out the alphabet was one thing, but of course, to do the whole keyboard, you got to do everything else if you're going to use it as a method of typing. So I figured, all right, the thumbs are good for the alphabet. The next would be the index fingers. So I started with the right index finger, and I figured, well, a space is about that big. So, all right, index finger and thumb. So that's space. And the other thumb is backspace. I hate reaching over with my pinky. That's crazy. So, and then the other index finger is enter. P is period, Q is question mark, and exclamation to keep them together. T is tab, C is comma, and apostrophe, because those are the most common used. And then on the other index finger, I figured the other punctuation that's a little bit more computer related. So you got your slash, your backslash, ampersand, tilde, colon, semicolon. And then I went on to the middle fingers. So the right middle finger, it does BLT. So I figured L and C, cap lock, all right, LN, number lock, and LS, scroll lock. That worked out pretty good. And so I went with that also doing all the lines. So you get your underline, your hyphen, your pipe character. And the other middle finger does the X. So I figured all your bent lines. So you got your greater than, your less than, your caret. It also does P, so it's your page up, page down. Then I moved on to the ring finger, Right ring finger does CMU. So I figured cursor and mouse use. So it's your cursor movement and mouse buttons. And the other ring finger is kind of your wedding marriage finger. So I figured any of the functions that are typically combined on a keyboard, like control, alternate, delete, so you can still work Windows, and any of the other stuff that you combine together. So those are all on the other index finger. Well, I still needed to do the numbers, and I figured, well, numbers are kind of linear. They have to go from one side to the other. And so I figured, all right, well, on the pinky, you hold the right pinky, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Left pinky, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And that's plenty of space for the brackets and the plus and equals. And of course, in number lock, it's just a single press. So that worked out pretty good. The only thing I was really missing was the F keys. So I figured, all right, well, pretty much used everything up, but I'm going to have to go 3 fingers for the F keys. So I started with the F keys on your right middle finger. It just seemed appropriate. So right middle finger and thumb, there's F1 through 4, 5 and 6. And then the left thumb, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that's basically what I put together as far as a new way to touch type, the way I think it's intended. Thank you.
I'm Elisa. Nice to meet you. I would like to know who would like $100? Who wants $100? All right, I'm going to talk about setting goals, and I'm going to leave that here, and we're going to see what happens with it. So my goal setting is about a bucket list, and this is my little paint can bucket list. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened to me when I realized that I needed to start living my dreams a little bit more. And the reason I found out is because don't you all realize that life sometimes happens in ways that we don't really expect? Yes. Everyone has defining moments. Sometimes you find out you're sick, sometimes you get divorced, sometimes you lose your job, sometimes you lose all your money, sometimes you lose your mind, and it defines you, right? And we all know somebody like that. What I want to talk to you about today is that there is a time and a place to say, I'm going to live the dreams and all of the things that I want, and we can package them whatever we want. I call it my bucket list. You guys may call it your goals. So it's very personal what I'm going to share with you tonight, because I'm going to share with you, after 14 months, all the things that I did that I wanted to do and my list of things to do. So what keeps us from our goals? Fear, self-doubt, excuses. How many of you have not done what you wanted to do because you were afraid? Anyone? I'm here to tell you that all of that is bull. And you have a choice. And you have a choice about one thing. You have a choice whether you want to sit back and look at the money, or if you want to get off your butt and get it. That's a cue for somebody. So you can do what you've always done, or you can make a choice to go a different path. And that's what I did. I'm going to give you some tips on how you can do that for yourself as well. So I had a series of defining moments about 14 months ago, and all of a sudden I realized, what am I doing? I'm 36 years old. I haven't really accomplished all the things that I want to accomplish, and I'm going to start right now. And I'm going to make a list because I love lists, and I know there's some ladies out there that like lists too. How many men like lists? Yes? So I got a big piece of paper and a Sharpie, and I started making a list of all the things that I wanted to do. So if you will indulge me, I will share with you a few of those crazy things that I decided to do along the way. But the most important thing is that I made a commitment not to say I wanted something, but to get up and get it. Yes, what's your name?
Melissa.
Melissa, congratulations. The first thing that you have to do in life is decide you want something and then get off your ass and get it. So, these are my bucket list goals. I was terrified to fly on airplanes. People that sat beside me would be so annoyed because I would make them hold my hand. So, the first thing I said I was going to do is get in the smallest plane and take off and land, and I did, and I'm freaking out right there, but I did it. I always wanted to go to the Kentucky Derby, and I wasn't going to go without a crazy hat and not drinking a mint julep and gambling, so there I am. Cute little dress, I know. And that actually is a winning ticket. I love Europe. I love champagne. For those of you that know me know that I love wine. And so I made it very specific and said I want to sit on the French Riviera and drink Moët and then swim in the Mediterranean. And yes, I did it European style, as scary as that may be. I think that a lot of times in life we say to ourselves, you know what, I really wish I could see my parents or the people I love more, but I made a commitment last year to do that, and I saw my parents 6 times, and I hope to see them more every year. I decided also to buy a really ridiculous sports car and get pulled over often, which happens. I always wanted to be Wonder Woman as a kid, and so I decided one day to dress up and be her. I wanted to give my mom and my kids memorable experiences, and I made a commitment every month to do that. I think it's really important that some of us decide that we don't want to do things on our own. We have to do something with somebody else, but it's very important to be able to do things by yourself, right? Don't depend on other people. So my favorite band was playing in my favorite city, and I got on a plane and went by myself. I always wanted to write a book, and I always wanted to see if I could live without my phone for 10 days. So I went to a monastery with 30 monks and did just that. And that's where I did it. And I started a book, so hopefully one day you'll be reading it. Here are just a few other crazy things that are on my list. Flossing was one of them. I actually included it twice because we all really need to floss. Every week do one random act of kindness. Again, let's make a list of all the things that you really want to do and do them, no matter how big or small. I started with 100. I checked off 28, but I still have 100 because when I started doing my list, I realized there's so many more things that I want to do. Nothing went according to plan. Some things didn't work out at all how I expected them to. But this is what you need to do. Take a wheel of your life and figure out everything that you want to accomplish. And it's not just about work, and it's not just about your marriage or your relationship or money. It's about deciding all of the crazy shit you want to do, and you decide, I'm going to do it. And this is what matters and what doesn't. The one thing that matters is what matters to you. It's not what your mom and dad want, it's what you want. So get off your ass and get what you want. Thank you.
Hello. My name's David Harris, and I believe the children are the future. I'm going to sing this. I thought it'd be No, I'm just kidding. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Kids are cool. Even teens with their attitude and psychic funk, hormonal chaos, they're cool too. And we need to filter through that noise to be able to get to those ideas. Their ideas are better than ours because they're closer to the source. They're geniuses because they don't know any better. Their misconceptions and crazy ideas are the paradigm shifts of tomorrow. So we need to encourage them to give us more. We need to guide them to take their ideas to market, to uplift themselves, their community, and our world. The problem is the school system. No child left us all behind. I'm not going to get into the politics here, but the teachers are heroes, and the administrators try, but they can't in this system. And the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. A factory producing manufacturers. But the superhighway is built with ideas and not machine parts. Standardized tests create standardized students, and this is not a standardized economy. We need creatives, not low standards. We need creators, not just consumers. We need to give teens a turn. So we can create a better future by guiding future leaders. To engage the free market, give them tickets to play, tips and tricks to succeed, we create a better future by creating entrepreneurs. A youth entrepreneurship for teens program allows them to engage their natural creativity, their insatiable need for self-expression, so they can harness their potential and feed us fresh new perspectives that are essential for a better way. So a curriculum of Think It, Plan It, Do It involves creative thinking skills, business model generation, and lean startup execution. It's not enough to say, good idea, kid. We need to help them to guide that idea all the way to market so we can all benefit. We need to give them permission to be creative, to think outside of the bubble. The key is for them to find that one good idea, that balance between novelty and utility, and then stretch that thinking all the way until they can see through. They don't filter like adults, so they have more ideas to choose from. And they're already thinking. And some ideas are great. We need to encourage divergent thinking. We need to get them to that long list to get to the best list. The idea that's worth all the work it's going to take to bring it to market. And we need to model collaboration, true collaboration, where the whole team benefits from individual effort, where they can build on ideas of others, they can share their ideas with others, and listen to the feedback. We need to get them to listen to the market. A path to market needs a plan. Business model generation outlines the way. Tools like the Business Model Generation Canvas simplify the fundamentals of an MBA so we can hand the keys to our young entrepreneurs. It takes a lot of work and a lot of determination, so we need to support them to succeed by modeling the importance of their path, by supporting them, showing them that we're there for them and it's important to illustrate the rewards of their effort. We need to encourage teens to follow their dreams. A lean startup execution brings those dreams into our reality with the best informed, able to adapt, market intuitive way. And the best case scenario is that they make mistakes, and we need to tell them that. It not only takes off the pressure, but it's true. Validated learning and feedback looping turn their ideas into our reality. So, talk to a teen, get to know what they're thinking. They want to tell you. They want help making sense of it all. They want the guidance. And listen to them. And really listen. Not judge, not instruct, not discount. Let them let their ideas out. Let them look at their ideas and try them on for a while. Guide them to find their answers. Their problems are the same problems that we're facing with. They just have a smaller worldview. So expand their worldview. Their answers may be better than ours. We have to give away what we have to keep it. All of us here are successful. We've all had mistakes. We've all gotten guidance. So now it's time to pay it forward and help a teen take their idea to market, to uplift themselves, their community, and our world. Thank you.
How's it going? Y'all having a good time tonight? Doing well? Not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, but it's a great segue for my presentation. My name is Victor Vulovic, and I'm gonna give you a brief biography on capitalism thus far and explain how it's come to resemble a rebellious teenager. I'm also gonna propose some parental strategies for how, based on 3 ideas. First, capitalism has grown and developed just like a child does. Second, its reckless and egotistical profit-maximizing behavior has led us to a state of revolution, and social enterprise is what it's evolving into. So let's start our biography in the beginning, at birth. Just like a toddler running around the beach kicking over sandcastles, capitalism established colonies and exploited resources all around the world. As we moved into the 17th century, Age of Enlightenment symbolized capitalism's first day at school. Thinkers like Adam Smith and John Locke expanded capitalism's worldview. Then we move into puberty, and capitalism hit a huge growth spurt with the Industrial Revolution. Exponential growth and progress for all the developing countries. So think back to those times. All you wanted to do was have fun. You didn't care about the costs associated with that. All you cared about was having fun. And capitalism's idea of fun is profit. It didn't care about environmental damage or unfair working conditions. But that kind of disregard can only last for so long until your parents get fed up and say, I'm not paying for your expenses anymore. So you reach an age, capitalism reaches an age, where it starts having arguments with its parent. I don't do anything wrong. I just want to have fun. What's your problem? Let me do what I want to do. And this kind of parent-child dynamic is mirrored in movements by the Tea Party and the Occupy movement, where you have this incredible dynamic between child and parent. So capitalism's misbehaviors need to be tended to. For example, international bullying for the pursuit of oil profits is not a good thing. We've created a negative perspective in a lot of people's minds across the world, and that's led to many acts of aggression. Additionally, a more recent example is the Gulf oil spill. Horrible tragedy that not only affected our lives and our society, but the lives of every organism in that ecosystem. So we have an interesting challenge in front of us now. How do we, as a society, teach capitalism and inspire it to grow into something that we want it to become? Are we going to keep appeasing it with corporate bailouts? I hope not. That hasn't really worked. But we need to instead take the first step and acknowledge the positive things that it's accomplished. Look at this incredible standard of life that we have. It's unparalleled. We also have the ability to communicate on a global scale at our fingertips. So, in order for capitalism to become that new, mature adult, we need to highlight these positive attributes about it. And we need to teach it how to learn from its mistakes. It needs to become a more balanced individual. That balanced individual is a social enterprise. Social enterprise gives capitalism purpose. Just like a college student who defines his major and starts his path to graduation, capitalism has, as a social enterprise, more clear direction and purpose. Indeed, the three pillars of social enterprise, planet, people, and profit, give capitalism a balanced lifestyle where it's able to have fun in the form of profits, but it's also serving society as a whole. So what do good social enterprises look like? Well, an example would be Triple Thread Apparel, a t-shirt printing company in Nashville that employs former prisoners so that they have an employable skill when they re-enter society. Also, Homeboy Industries in LA, a nonprofit, owns several businesses that employ formerly gang-related affiliated youth. So today, I've shown you how capitalism has come to this crucible and how social enterprise is going to be the solution to that conundrum. Moving forward, we are all here today because we're passionate about something. So let's take the next step. Let's take our passions to the next level. And let's inspire people to find their own. Together, we can create value for ourselves by creating value for everyone else. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Dan, and I founded the Front End Design Conference in 2009, and that was to bring talented people in the web design industry here to Tampa to educate and inspire our local talent. Tonight, what I'd like to talk about is an idea that if an entire region focused on one thing, and that one thing provided a competitive advantage, that the entire region would benefit from that. And the reason I want to talk about this now in Tampa Bay is we've become more and more focused on products and startups and in commerce in general. And I think that going forward, in order to be successful, we'll want to focus on design in all of those. Design is actually something very hard to define. Steve Jobs gave it 3 quotes throughout his career and his life. And my favorite is that design is not just what something looks like and feels like. Design is how something works. And a great example of that in products is a product called Nest. Now, this is a thermostat that does the typical thing that you'd expect. You turn the dial, it changes your temperature. But the real power behind it is that it actually is programmed to learn your behavior and make adjustments for you. This is intended to save you money and to actually save the world on resources. Now, not everyone can make amazing programmable thermostats. So how design affects a very simple product is something like bread. Bread, in its original form, was actually a pretty bad design. Very few people eat a whole loaf of bread in a single seating by themselves. So bread had to undergo a redesign. And all they did was slice it. This is a very, very simple design change, but it was a huge infrastructure change for the industry. It's a fantastic story. It happened in the late 20s, And the whole industry changed in 2 years, and it ended up with the term of the best thing since sliced bread. Now, this focus on like making your product better for your users actually led to people eating bread more often because it was easier, eating more bread when they ate bread, and then actually gave rise to a whole other industry of toppings for the bread. Now, I talk about these two different products because they cover the range of like consumption products, like business to consumer products, and then efficiency products, which are like business to business products. The key thing for both of those is that design set them apart. And going forward with more products in the world and more information about products in the world, design is what's going to set things apart in the future. Now, since I'm not a Steve Jobs, not wildly successful, and I look like I'm 12, I thought it might be a good idea to share who else feels this way. So if you look at the global way, China wants to rule the world in commerce. They might want to rule other ways as well, but they definitely want to rule in commerce. They have a state-sponsored focus on design. What that means is that the government says that design is a priority for all businesses in the nation. Now, they're in it for the long haul, so they do some acquisition of talent, but their primary focus is on 400 design programs in their schools. They're training design, but they're not training for arts degrees. They're training product design. They want to convert made in China to designed in China. Now, nationally, we have Apple, Nike, Facebook, all very successful design-oriented companies. Facebook actually acquires companies for design talent. Their most recent was GoWalla. They purchased GoWalla and didn't even want the data. They just wanted the team. For people starting companies, VCs have been more vocal about wanting designer founders. And there's actually a fund started out in California strictly for designers to launch their own companies. Now, the reason I'm sharing all of this with everyone here is I feel that we can look at these world leaders in commerce and these nationwide leaders in commerce and follow in their footsteps. And there's just real 3 simple things to do in your companies. This first is you have to make design a priority. Now, this has to be at the China level. So it has to come from the top and it has to be felt all the way through your company. Once you get to that level, you're going to need people to do the work. Now, if we were all to do that, we don't have enough supply in Tampa Bay right now. So you would have to out-hire remotely and work your way towards bringing people into the area. And we also have to invest in our future. So once we have this all rolling, we need to be training both in businesses and in running product design training in our schools. All of this is very, very big changes, high-level things. But this room, because you're here right now, I know that this room is filled with forward thinkers and doers. So all of you can make this happen. Thank you.
Ah, the magic of a tech-driven economy. The promise of finally breaking our addiction to tourism and construction. No, we will not be the next Silicon Valley, but we're headed in the right direction. An ecosystem is made up of air, water, soil, and sun. Those are the essential components for building life. A tech ecosystem is made up of similar components, but not dependent on any one industry or a target industry cluster. They require a mix of essential resources to grow new businesses. But growth of what? How do we know what to grow? And more importantly, how do we measure our success? Traditionally, regional success is measured in new jobs. And also unfortunately, how the metric to generate those jobs is not well defined. Where those jobs come from, how they're determined, how they come from founders in the community, how they come from the basic science and the technology, how they come from the talent that is in the community is unknown. We need to figure out how we can innovate and build and ship new products over and over again to really generate those jobs. Amen. So how are we doing on that? Is the air in Tampa stale with the discussion of tourism and construction and the next big convention? Or is it fresh with new ideas and talk of new innovation? Are we shining enough light on the the innovators, the people, the science and technology community and the creative community that is growing our infrastructure, and are we trying to reinforce Central Florida as a tech-savvy place to build new technology? Are we taking the time to understand what resources high-growth startups need? Are we building the critical mass of talent and infrastructure to deliver meaningful resources to help foster that growth? And most importantly, are we knocking down the barriers so that startup founders feel comfortable starting and growing businesses here in Central Florida? Nurturing a tech ecosystem is a shared responsibility. At the grassroots level, we see the current tech community generously giving back time, talent, and capital to help the next generation of tech startups. There are service providers donating their talent, the lawyers, the bankers, and the accountants, hoping that if they can see, they can capture the next generation of businesses. And there are even some businesses who give us shelter and caffeine for our events. It's a nice start, but we're not quite there. Where are the community business leaders? Where are the economic development agencies? Where is academia that so desperately needs the economy and the stability brought on by the transition from old Florida to a new tech-centric Florida? These groups cannot create jobs on their own, but they can't make it a direct investment. But they should understand tech and create value for those that can. Building a tech economy has to be more than a talking point in some dusty PowerPoint strategy. They need to understand the barriers and build the infrastructure that encourage new companies, jobs, and sustainable growth. Economic development more often has a lot to do with development and not very much to do with economics. Their success is based on office vacancy rates, hotel nights booked, construction permits, or W-2 jobs. How does that help build a tech economy? There is a comfort level in helping and tracking safe businesses. They know how to help small businesses, the Main Street businesses. If you're starting a hair salon or an auto repair shop, they can provide you resources to get you incorporated, help you with QuickBooks, or file your taxes. They know how to assist big businesses, especially those with jobs they can relocate from other regions. Sadly, this is where most of our region's efforts are spent, competing with other cities for cheap land, tax incentives, and expedited building permits. There is a gap between these two extremes, and that gap is where the true innovation and new product generation exist. This is where startup founders invest their talent and money to build something cool. This is where infrastructure for growth is often ignored. It all comes back to what we measure and what we applaud as success. Another hollow press release, ribbon-cutting ceremony does not help the tech ecosystem. We are overinvested in hype and underinvested in actual innovation. It's time to support and measure what really matters. The market ultimately decides who's going to be a tech region, not an agency, a chamber, or a commission. Applauding jobs relocated from some rusty town outside of Detroit or Buffalo isn't going to get us there. The innovators that are creating real work and shippable products are the real economic leverage in our community. Changing the economy is hard work. It takes a lot of effort. In the meantime, don't mistake bright, shiny objects and questionable PR releases or tech conferences as being real progress. My challenge to you is to focus on what matters. So feel good about what we've accomplished and how far we've come as a community, but the next time you see a press release about jobs and construction, say to yourself, where's the product?